Hey everyone, what we are going to cover in this video today is setting up AWS SES with a new domain so that we can send emails through AWS SES, simple email service, for that domain. And if you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Timothy Bramlett. I am the co-founder and CTO of Stammer AI, as well as a lot of other projects that we've started. Now, let's jump in and get this started. This is the type of content that I actually love to create because I actually really need to do this now for DomainCrafter.ai, a small project I launched. And this is perfect. I'm going to create content and get some work done at the same time. So if you're not familiar with AWS Simple Email Service, it is probably the cheapest way to send email online, especially if you're building a SaaS application. I highly, highly recommend it. Now, with the one caveat that, you know, what you're going to get here is a real bare bones service in many ways. So you're not going to have any type of, logging of the emails built in, anything like that. You're not going to get a lot of the analytics, which is actually kind of related, right? But you're not going to get a lot of the analytics that you would get from a more robust email provider. But that being said, it's so cheap. And the original reason I went with it was because the first project I created that had a lot of success was Notifier.so, and its entire job was to send emails, right? So I wanted to use the cheapest approach possible, which is not always the way you should do things, to be honest. But anyway, keep that in mind. If you do want to set up AWS SES for a domain, this is the way to do it. It's a great service. Never had any real issues with it. Let me move this right over here so that we're not blocking stuff. And I'm going to move this actually outside the window. Now, let's get started. Now, I've got this domain, right? Actually, this is running on localhost. But what I want to do is I want to add a kind of an opt-in for it, right? Something to get people to, input their email, and then I send them this guide to, crafting the perfect domain for their business. So in order to do that, I need to actually send emails I need to be able to send emails with it, right? And I have the actual inbox, kind of the human inbox set up right now through Google Workspaces. But this is going to be programmatic sending of emails, right? From code and also through another application I use. It's a self-hosted email sending platform called Cindy. And that's what we're going to do in this video, is get this set up to work with Cindy in order to, basically verify the domain on AWS SES. That's going to be the first step. And then we're going to, let's just jump into it actually. So let's go to identities. That is where you're going to find all the list of domains that's under this account. I'm going to click on create identity. What we're doing is a domain identity type. And now let's get the domain for DomainCrafter. I've learned in my career to never type anything in if I can avoid it. So we're just going to copy this. We're going to go back to AWS SES, paste in the domain. I actually don't remember what this does. And we do want to use a custom mail from. I'll try to explain that. Well, I guess right now. But what it does is, I believe if you do not set up a custom mail from, I don't remember what it does actually. Let's see here. Let's ask our friend Claude actually. Okay, that is right. And I actually had to use Claude Typing Mind in order to ask this because I was over my Claude limits right now, even though I'm a Plus user. But if you don't set the custom mail from, and I completely forgot that this is what happens. When the emails get sent, they're actually mailed from an AmazonSES.com subdomain, right? So you definitely want to set a mail from. And what I usually do is just do mail.thedomain, right? So in this case, mail.domaincrafter.ai. And I think we just have to set up some additional text, some additional records in order to get that done. I'm not assigning a default configuration set. That is more complex than what we're trying to do right now. I don't know how it's going to do that actually, because I don't do interesting. So this is saying that, so Amazon's Route 53, right, is their kind of domain registrar. And this domain is not through Route 53. But I mean, let's see what happens if they can set it up somehow. Maybe they have something through Namecheap. Okay. So we're going to say create identity next after we've filled all this out. I'm really curious to see what that Route 53 thing does. Okay, we're getting a feedback request from Amazon here. We're going to cancel that. So the verification needs to be done, and that means we need to add these records. Okay, so usually I actually see... Okay. Here's the DKIM configuration. Here's the configuration for the custom mail from. But I thought that usually I just see like a verification. Okay, well maybe I'm misremembering something. And let's go ahead and get these DKIM settings configured. So what we're going to do is actually go into Namecheap. Okay, that's where the DNS for this domain currently is being managed. We're going to go to advanced DNS, and what we need to actually add is these DKIM records. So let's do add new record. We're actually going to do a CNAME. That's what these are, how these are done. So let's go back here, and this first one is the value. You have to be careful with these, by the way, because you need to make sure that for the DNS, you'll see what I mean. Hold on. So let's put this in here. And what I'm trying to remember actually is if we need to include the domain, the .domaincrafter.ai, because in some systems that's automatically appended for you. And I can never remember what Namecheap does. I think Namecheap does not include it. So let's keep that in there like that, and I'll show you a way in just a moment how you can double check and see basically by querying the domain. And we're going to put the value here. This is what goes right here. Okay. Now let's hit check. All right, let's add the next one because there's 3 CNAME records that we need to add. I don't actually know why there are 3. If anyone knows why, feel free to put that in the comments. Okay, and then next, we're going to do this one. Let's put that in there. Okay. Okay, now let's do the final record we're going to need. Okay, let's put that in here. Feel free to speed this video up, of course, because I know this is quite boring, seeing me copying and pasting. Okay, so now we have those records in there. And since these records have never existed, usually in my experience with DNS, they should show up rather quickly. So let's first go back to AWS SES. I think there's a way to verify this. Let's see. Verification shows as pending. I think usually they send you an email when it's set up. Let me refresh the page and let's see if we've gotten lucky enough for it to just instantly kind of pop up. No, it still says pending. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm not sure about what I said, if Namecheap appends the domain name to the host value. So let me pull up a tool we can use called MX Toolbox. Let's go type it in here, MX Toolbox. There we go. Let's just do this. And we can actually look up all the DNS records for domaincrafter.ai. Okay, so it's showing us the A record, but it's not showing us the other records. I want to see CNAMEs. I think this should find everything, right? Let's do CNAME lookup just in case. Okay, let's hit enter. Okay, so yeah, no records are showing up yet. What I'm going to do now is actually pause the video and we will see how long it takes for those records to start showing up. But what I'm going to do is query this domain's CNAME records, and if I see it looking weird with .domaincrafter twice in the host value, then I'll know that, okay, I don't need to put those in for Namecheap. But let me pause the video. Let's see how long this takes. Okay, and I did look up some documentation, and I'm actually pretty sure that Namecheap will append the domain name onto the host value. So what I'm actually going to do is go in here and remove this if I can. I don't know why. Oh, weird. I've had this happen before. To where in their user interface, if you start editing something, come on, what's it doing? Yeah, it like crashes it. Let's do exit pages. Let me get back into Namecheap. Okay, and what I actually did was use a text editor to remove the extra dot domain crafter.ai because we don't want that in there. And so let me just save these now. Hopefully their interface keeps working. There we go. Okay. Okay, so we've updated the records now, and this is likely going to take a little bit of time in order to verify in Amazon SES. Let's go back and let's see if we get lucky. This is setting up DKIM, which I'll explain. Actually, DKIM's a bit beyond the scope of this video. Let's not go over what that is exactly right now. Domain key verification stuff, basically. Okay. It's pending. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video and let's see how long this actually takes to set up, and I'll let you guys know. Okay, so that took a few minutes, but it's actually verified now. And so that was indeed the case, that whenever you get these DKIM records from AWS SES, you may have to actually remove, let me show you actually so you can know exactly what to do. Okay, and then we're going to talk about these three components of kind of email email, kind of three different types of records basically that you have to set up in order to kind of get your emails properly verified. Let's, where is that? It's not even showing that to me now. Here we go. Okay, so when you get this from their interface, let's put it here. It looks like this, right? And what I had to actually do was remove everything, the domain basically, and the dot. So it was just this that I put into the host value inside Namecheap. Depending on your DNS provider, you may need to do something similar. Now, let's talk more about why we are setting these records up, okay? And I could be butchering some of this. It's been a while since I've talked about these concepts, so let me know in the comments. Don't hold back if I got something wrong or you feel like it's incorrect. But there are basically three things you have to set up in order to get your emails properly set up so that, you know, providers like Gmail know that the email came from you and not as spam, is not someone trying to spam and spoof you. And to do that, you need to set up SPF. It's like Sender Protection Framework or something, DKIM, and then DMARC, right? SPF is basically a text record, I believe. We'll find out in just a moment because we're going to have to set it up. But it's a text record that says, okay, these mail servers are able to send email on my behalf, I believe. DKIM is actually a signing mechanism thing. I don't fully understand it, but you need those records in order to properly sign emails, and people will know that those emails came from your system. DMARC is actually kind of a weird one here. It's not a combination. It uses both of those, SPF and DKIM, and it basically says, here's the behavior to use whenever you see emails that are not properly from these domains. It means they're not from me, and so you need to take this action when you get those emails. So you have to set up all three basically, and we can do that all through here. Now, if you do not set up a custom mail from domain, which is what we're about to do here, you will not have to set up an SPF record. And that's because your emails are going to be sent from AWSSES.com or whatever that domain is, but it's going to use their SPF record. But we don't want to do that. We want to have everything properly set up. We might as well set it up properly from the get-go. So now we're going to add these MX and text records. And this is pretty simple. I think you understand how to do this. I'm just going to copy this, remove the .domaincrafter.ai, and then put the value in there. I'm going to create an MX record. I'm going to create a text record. And this is actually the SPF record right here, this text record. I'm going to put those in the Namecheap. I'm going to pause the video while I'm doing that so this video doesn't stretch on, and then we'll continue. Okay, and I've added these two records, and I want to mention one thing, okay? First off, you need to remove the .domaincrafter.ai if you're using Namecheap, because it will automatically add that. So find out if your domain provider does that. The other thing I want to mention, and actually there's two now that I think about it. So Namecheap has this great, if you're using Google Workspaces, Namecheap has this great setting in here to just forward, everything just gets set up, the records for Gmail, right? But if you're going to do anything a little bit more complex, like we're doing here, you have to go to custom MX records. Because I'm going to have to add the Gmail MX records in here as well in order to be able to also send and receive email through Gmail, Google Workspaces. Now, the other thing I added from this was the text record, right? Same thing, you have to get rid of this if your DNS provider does that. And then we're adding this SPF record in here. Okay, what that SPF record is actually saying is that this is the domain that's allowed to send for this subdomain mail.domaincrafter.ai. So we've got that set up. These two records are in here properly. I'm going to pause the video because I want to go ahead and get the Google Workspaces MX records for Gmail that I need to add. I'm going to add those in here, and then we're going to continue the video. Okay, and as I add the final MX record for Gmail in here, one thing I want to mention is the priorities, right? When you get the value here that you put into the value field from AWS SES, you'll notice it has the priority listed right here. You don't want to put it in there that way. You just want to only do this here if, and this is a big if your DNS provider has a separate field for the priority. So you have to see, Namecheap does have that, right? If it's just one single field, you may have to put it in there in that format. So that just depends. I'm going to click save here, and now my Gmail should in theory work again, but I need to check on that for one thing because I think I actually created that up for another video in a different account. Anyway, so we've got these in here. This should be good to go. Let's go back to the AWS SES interface and let's see if it is going to still show pending for the custom mail from domain. The identity is verified. DKIM is set up so it can sign our things now. This is pending. I'm going to pause the video and then we're going to pick up from there. And then I think, I don't really want to talk about it, but I think we're going to talk about DMARC for this video because that needs to be set up properly. And if you're not careful with the records you put in, you could end up with emails not getting delivered, basically. So let me pause the video and then we'll go through that. Okay, so that is successful. The mail from domain has been set up. I don't want to go too much into DMARC as I think about it for this video. If you guys decide, or let me know if you guys want me to do a video on setting up the DMARC properly for a domain. We can definitely do an in-depth video on that. It's a little bit difficult to set up in some ways. It's actually very simple once you know what you're doing, and you can really get, Claude or ChatGPT to help you do it. But it gets a little bit more complex when you've got multiple email provider situations going on. You just want to make sure you include both. Well, you want to include all the relevant domains that your emails may be sent from, right? But let's just add this text record really quickly. I'm just going to copy this part right here. Okay. And then let's do, where is that? Yeah, we're just going to copy this. Okay, we got both of these copied. Let's go over to, there we go, advanced DNS. Now let's add a new record. It's a text record for DMARC? Yeah, I believe so. We have the host in here that we are adding, which is just _DMARC. That's a typical host for a DMARC record. Here we are putting in this kind of bare bones DMARC record, which should really not do anything, to be honest. I'm going to save that. Okay, and in a later video, let me know if you guys are interested in that. We can talk about DMARC more in depth, I guess the whole system and how it works. I'll have to prep for that, but we can get that done. Now that we've got that done, that should be all of the DNS records we need to set up inside AWS SES. Let's go back in here. Now we should actually be able to send a test email. Let's do it. Okay, we're going to send a test email. Who am I going to send it to? I mean, let's use, I I guess we could do the support. We can do Tim at domaincrafter.ai, and it should be mailed from domaincrafter. Yeah, let's do that. So Tim at domaincrafter.ai. Scenario, I think it's like the default. Wait. I don't think we need to do that. Oh, okay, yeah. Custom recipient address of your own. So that's what you want to do is custom. And we're going to do, oh, that's the from address. My bad. What am I doing? Okay, we can say support, although we could literally make it the same. Tim at domaincrafter.ai. Subject, hello from AWS SES world. And we'll do the same thing in the body. Configuration, I don't think we need to configure. Yeah, we don't need that. Send test email. Okay, now let's go into the email. Okay, and that did work in the end. I did indeed get a test email from Amazon SES. And notice here it is signed, it's sent from support at domaincrafter.ai to Tim at domaincrafter.ai. And it's signed by, this is probably mail.domaincrafter.ai. Let's take a, is there a way we can see the original? There definitely is. How can we see the original email? Let's move this because I can't see that. We can go to show original. And let's take a look. Yeah. Okay, great. So that is actually how you set up AWS SES. Now, this video is already getting too long, but one thing I do want to go over really quickly is how you then use that, right? So what you need to do next is actually, once you get all this set up and you've done a test email, there's not a lot you can do yet, right? So what you have to do is actually create your, there should be an way to do it from this interface, I thought. Okay, well the next thing you need to do is set up your SMTP, here we go, SMTP settings, and then you create your SMTP credentials, right? And let's quickly go through this, and then I'll probably delete those because I think it's actually going to show me those credentials, and I don't want to expose them. But we'll do create SMTP credentials. You create your SMTP username. And for the user here, you usually want to give a user that is a username that's descriptive enough to where you can know what it is later on. So let's see here. And so I'm just doing domain crafter server SSES SMTP user. That should be easy enough for me to remember. Now I'll click create user. Oh, okay, and so it's actually not showing the SMTP password, but I'll probably still recreate this just for good measure. But what you can then do, right, obviously you see what you do here. You take this, you don't need the IM username necessarily, that's more stored inside Amazon, but you're gonna take this SMTP username and this SMTP password, and then you can go put that in your code and start to use this. Or if you're using Cindy, I'm doing both. I'm putting this into the code base for domain. Actually, no, I'm just putting this actually inside Cindy because Domain Crafter is not sending emails currently in any way. It's not having users register or anything like that. But if it was, I could put it in the code defining the credentials to use to send emails via SMTP. But if you're using Cindy or whatever email platform you're using, you can just use these SMTP credentials, put them in there, and then you're good to go. But that's it. This video is a lot longer than I ever expected it to be, but this stuff does get complex and confusing. I actually found, while I was doing this, I found an issue with my catch-all email for Domain Crafter, so I'll have to update that video. But as always, let me know if you guys have any questions on this. Thank you very much.